Hej och välkomna till kvällens sändning som blir med Bart. Jag är så spänd över att få höra den här föreläsningen. Så jag ska faktiskt inte säga så mycket mer utan jag säger välkommen till oss på Skellefteå Pride.
Tack så mycket. Jag är mycket tacksam för att jag kan vara med er.
Du får köra igång.
Tack. Som ni vet, jag ska prata engelska för att det var länge sedan jag hörde svenska. Jag är född i Sverige, jag är född i Malmö, men jag är uppvuxen i Lublin i Polen. Därför engelska är lättare för mig. Okay, so as you may know, the Polish government now is the right-wing Lawn Justice Party, and they came into power. They came into power in 2015, and this is the time where I also created a documentary called Article 18 that you can easily watch on the YouTube. It's a whole story about how we don't have the civil unions or the marriage equality in Poland because of the Article 18 of Polish Constitution that states that the marriage is a union between the man and woman and therefore is protected by the state. And it was used as some kind of excuse for the liberal president, for the liberal politicians that was in power before the Law and Justice came into the power. So for the years before the Law and Justice came to power, we was not properly secured as a minority in Poland. So we don't have a hate speech law, we don't have civil unions, we don't have marriage equality, or we don't have like a proper trans rights in the way that they should have the transition in a way like in other West countries. So when the Law and Justice came and it became a ruling government in 2015, so everybody was like shocked, but nobody knew what will came after. So I can imagine myself that nobody was expecting that we will be in the target of the current government in the way they done it in 2018. I was creating the Pride Parade in Lublin in 2018 and 19. The Lublin is the city I grew up, and the city which I remember as a place where everything was dark, everything was gray. I remember the city because I was growing up over there, so I had nobody to speak with about me being a gay person, and so I left it to the Warsaw when I was about 18 or 20 years old. So I was remembering the Lublin city as a very dark place of my past. So when I had this possibility to participate in the Pride Parade, which was the very first one in 2018, I was very happy to do that. And I was very happy to use my privilege as the one living now in Warsaw, being the freelancer that could somehow help and contribute to the community I left many years ago. And 2018, the Pride Parade we was organizing then was the Pride which was very violent. I mean, because the hooligans tried to stop us. It was the football hooligans and the others who didn't like that we are showing off on the street of the quite conservative city. So it ended in riot, and the pictures from those riots has became viral, and the whole internet was speaking about this, that something like this happened. Police was forced to use the water cannons to make our way through, and so we went. And for us it was very important lesson that we need to fight for our rights, that we need to our rights will not become something in an easy way, that we need to fight for it. And it was 2018, and it was the very first time I seen this violent attack on us, the stones thrown onto us. It was not just people chanting that we are not a part of their community and telling horrible slurs against that, but also that they were using real violence. So, and it was 2018, and then the 2019 came, which I think was the worst year for the LGBT community since democracy in Poland, because we heard so many horrible things that happened. But to make this in the order, so at 2019, At January, the mayor of Warsaw, the liberal mayor of Warsaw, decided to sign the pro-LGBT declaration, where he decided to contribute to fight for the LGBT rights on the very local level, even if he has quite short and narrow power as a mayor of just a city. But he decided to make a promise that the young homeless LGBT people will be having a shelter, and it was one of the biggest promise he gave. And it suddenly made it wake up the right wing demons. Suddenly, right side the scene, they missed the moment when he decided to sign this declaration, and so the backslash was very big. Few weeks after he announced that he will sign this declaration, Jarosław Kaczynski, who is the leader of the right-wing party Law Justice, which is in the power, decided to make a speech that there is an LGBT ideology which is a threat to the Polish values, to the Polish Christianity, and to Polish kids. So it was very clear movement. It was very clear idea for the right-wing people that we need to fight with so-called LGBT ideology. It came maybe in 1 or 2 weeks when the very first place in Poland, it was Świdnik province, which created a statement, because they call it for a statement. It's not an act of law, called the Statement Against the LGBT Ideology, which was replaced by many other municipalities then after they done it at the first time. In this document, we can read that they are against so-called LGBT ideology, they're against homo propaganda, which they describe the political correctness, and they are against the World Health Organization standard for the sexual rights. So teaching the kids about their or sexual orientation or whatever with the standards of the World Health Organization, they see as sexualization of the kids, abusing their rights, and so on. And it was very horrible that they was describing in a simple way that our rights, our dignity is called for the LGBT ideology or homo propaganda. And many municipalities decided to have the same bill with the same wording, the same line after line, because it was sent from other law and justice politicians to them, that was inviting them to have such municipality, such a statement. And it was around like 50 places in Poland who declare with this act. And then became the very new bill has been introduced by the right wing NGO called Or the Juris, which was not using so strong wording, but still was discriminatory. It was the family charter, how they used to say. They all used to tell that those LGBT freezing acts are pro-family charters. Of course, it's a horrible lie, because when we listen, when we read, when we hear what the politicians over there is speaking about the LGBT people, they simply forgot to tell the same story they used to tell before, that they are fighting with the ideology, because when they are speaking about this, it's very easy to catch that they are speaking about the people, not an ideology and their imagination. So around 50 people, 50 places declare with this LGBT Freedom Act, and it was very horrible fight for us as activists to fight with it. Some media was speaking about this, but we still thought it's not enough, because in Poland, which struggled so much with the Second War, we still have the concentration camps who are the museums right now. We should never ever have any kind of discrimination in a way of some legal acts that are in the power, but we have, and the most of them are in my province where I was living and growing up. So it's a double sadness for me. Um, so we were thinking what we can do as activists to put more light about those LGBT free zones, and the cities was so proud about having those zones, having those anti-LGBT declaration, that I was thinking that the way we can do this is very simple. if they are so proud about being LGBT-free zones, so let's make it clear that they are LGBT-free zones. At the same time, I've seen the Polish newspaper called Gazeta Polska, which created horrible stickers called anti-LGBT stickers with the text the LGBT free zone and the rainbow flag crossed. So they became my inspiration that it's all about the LGBT people. It's all about fighting with us. They create the stickers where they fight with us, and they put it to the normal right-wing newspaper where you can buy it, and it's still legal. So I put some inspiration from it, and I created the sign to highlight those homophobic governments. And my idea was very simple. I will go to all of those municipalities who declare those anti-LGBT acts, and I will make a pictures. I will put my sign. There will be the text with the name of the city, and I will just make a picture. And I was thinking because on daily basis I am working as a videographer, so I was thinking, nah, we are missing something. I am missing something. I need something more. And I came into idea that I need to invite the people, LGBT people who are living there. And I think it was a brilliant idea because with this, my project have this power of the people and their stories. So I was speaking because I knew the people from the Lublin. I was speaking with few of them. You are living in this LGBT free zone. Could you show up in my project as a hero, as a protagonist? And yes, they just told me yes. I told them that it can become a viral or whatever. You need to be sure that you want to become the member of this project. And so I choose the first members of this project. I made the photos in the late 2019, and I published them in the January, thinking before that I don't know what to do with them. Maybe I would just push them on the social media. Um, and so I done it, and it suddenly became a big viral. I never expected. I never expected that the politicians, that the members of European Parliament will share them, that it will start the big debate, international debate about human rights in Poland. For me, it was something amazing that by simple projecting what is in this act and what the right wing sometimes want to hide with the wording ideology, reframing the language, I could spot the international debate about the acts, not about my project, because it's what the right wing people used to say that I made a fake news about Poland. No, I never made a fake news about Poland. I made it clear what the real symbolic way of those acts was real. I mean, the clear meaning of those acts was that they are against people because something like ideology is not real. So from the time I created the project, a lot of things change. There is no more new LGBT free zones. Since January, there was about places, three municipalities which withdraw this document. One of those was the anti-LGBT act, the most disgusting one, those where they was opposing to so-called ideology. And it was because of my project. It was because of other projects of other activists, like so-called Atlas of Hate. The friend of mine created the virtual map of Poland, and you can even go there on the website called atlasofhate.pl or .com, where you can see the whole Poland and the different zones, different places who declare. And it was also a very good database for the journalists to go and to search, because they collected all of those municipalities. And we also pay quite a big price for our effectiveness, because me, myself, and the other activists now got lawsuits because of the project. I mean, I got for my project, they get for their project, from the municipalities, encouraged by the right-wing NGOs who was telling they are hurting the good name of Poland, and you need to create a lawsuits against them. So they was convincing those municipalities until three of them, in my case, prepared a lawsuit against me with the help of this right-wing NGO, and the other done the same against my friend who was creating the Atlas of Hate. And this is the now quite common tactic in Poland where we see the LGBT activists who are paying price, those most loud one, for their activities. I mean, we can count other activists who got the lawsuits because of their actions, small and big one. And the purpose of it is a very clear one. It it doesn't mean that they won't have to win in the court. It mean nothing for them. For them, the most meaningful, I mean the right-wing politicians and the right-wing NGOs, the most meaningful thing is to that we'll lost our time in the courts because it will take a time to defend ourselves. It will also cost a lot, so we need to create crowdfunding campaigns to run the legal defense to help us, and especially it will be time consuming. So from in my case, I cannot create a new action and a new project because this year is quite dedicated to the lawsuits that will happen in across Poland. Because it's like this that the regional courts will take my cases, so it will happen in a different part of Poland, and the same in the other activists. So this is their tactic. But I am still quite hopeful in the way when I will go to the summary of what happened in Poland. When we see on what happened since 2015, we see this dramatic change of their human rights in Poland, where the right-wing government regime is trying doing everything to fight with us using the public TV. When I'm telling you about the public TV, which is in Poland, and it's quite a very important tool in the hands of politicians, so you need to understand that you never seen such a disgusting news reportages that you could see in Polish TV. When you see the Polish TV telling about, I mean, the public TV telling about the LGBT rights, so you should imagine that they will, at the same time, in the prime time, at 7 p.m., tell that we are child abusers, fake news makers, and we are anti-Polish. And they are using my face and the other activists' face in their propaganda. So every time they are speaking about me, I usually get death threats on my official website, social media, because people are quite influenced by what they are doing, but what they are saying. Um, and this is the quite unequal fight where we can do whatever we wish to do and do our best work. I mean, around the project, the LGBT NGOs are doing great work in the field, but it will be always missed in the public TV or will be misused in the way to hurt us or our efforts to change the Poland for a place where everybody will be welcomed. So, but again, coming back to the summary, when I think about what changed since 2015, so of course the things for the LGBT rights, for the LGBT people changed dramatically and for the worst. But we also see that 2019 was also the highest number of the Pride parades. I mean, the people living in the different part of Poland are creating independently pride parades, pride events, because they want to fight back, even if it's quite an act of courage in Poland to be an open gay LGBT person, because you can face different consequences for it, from violence to that you'll lose your work, you'll have some problems with your family, as usually. So it's telling me that the young people, young generation who is fighting back, creating those LGBT events, and sometimes unusually are create and are in quite connected to the climate movement, women strike, women protests that are happening right now. They are the one who are making the change, and they are the one who will make the change. And they are also the part of the change. They are not just watching; they are doing. And this is the thing that I think that is telling me that now Poland is boiling. Poland is in the momentum where we are in the very big crisis of the law, of the LGBT rights, of the human rights, and the international atmosphere, internet media, and European Union efforts for the LGBT rights in Poland will decide about the future of Poland in the European Union and the whole Poland as a whole. If we want a Poland that will be open, a Poland that will be liberal and will respect the woman's right to decide about their body, or the Poland where we will have a ban on divorce, ban on abortion, a ban on LGBT rights as a whole. So this is the thing that we are now deciding about what will happen next. And therefore I usually tell that it's so much important that European Union is inside of this battle. Because if European Union will close eyes about what is happening in Poland, so who will be next? Of course it will for Polish people it will be easy way to have a Pole exit. But on the other hand, the Hungary, the Poland, and the other countries are just waiting. We see what is happening in Sweden, the Sverige Demokraterna. Everybody, I mean, I am watching the Swedish news. So I know how it was developing in Sweden. I remember when there was just a very small percent of people who nobody expected that they would ever go to the parliament, and now you see they are in the government. So the things are slowly changing, and I usually tell about the boiling frog effect, that is never changing dramatically in the one day, or it's usually not doing that way. Things are changed slowly, and they are using the rhetoric. They are demagogues. They know how to use social media, and the same thing is happening in Poland. They use public TV, they use social media against the people, against LGBT rights, against the LGBT activists. And so I think that we need to rethink about our attitude to the freedom of speech, because now the freedom of speech in thinking of this is used by the right-wing people to tell whatever they want, and according to the law, because they know how to use it, against the democratic values, which the freedom of speech was very big, important part of. So ending, I'm still very built with hope for the future, because a part of what bad is happening in Poland, we see that we are fighting back, and this church, which is also involved into this conflict, especially in Poland, which is very right wing, which is using hate speech. I remember that Archbishop Jędraszewski, which is quite prominent press in Poland, who was telling that we had the red plague, red sickness, which was during the communism. And now we need to fight another plague, which is the rainbow plague. So easily he connected the communism with the LGBT people, LGBT right, which Polish church see as an enemy to everything, to them, to their power. And they are fighting together with the politicians against us. And because we don't have the hate speech law, we can do nothing to them because we are not a protected group. But the rhetoric is quite, the propaganda they use against us is quite poor, cheap. I see that the young people are not buying it. I mean, the young generation is growing up on VODs, Netflix, and so on. They don't see young people, their friends, as an enemy, and they don't see them as ideology or whatever horrible the press will say. So these things are mostly working on most devoted right-wing voters who are still believing into this horrible story about LGBT ideology, which is threat, or the one who is just voting for the Land Justice Party. And they will listen to it. They will be most influenced by it. And then they will go and throw a stone onto us when the Pride Parade will occur in another city. So ending, I am still believing that it's going to the good and that we will win one day. It's just also the time, how long it will take. If it will take 1 year, 10 years, I think that it will take much more than 1 year. We look on the Sweden, when we look on the United States, it was not the battle that took 1 year or 2 or 10. I'm just hoping that it will happen during my lifetime. And I think I will end on this point. Thank you.
Tack. Wow. Vilken känslosam föreläsning mitt i allt det här. Vi har ändå fått några funderingar som jag tänker att vi tar upp. Du sa ju att städerna var stolta över de här fria zonerna. Hur märkte du det?
I remember when they was speaking about this, because those councilman members, they was giving the interviews. Journalists was asking them, what do you mean with this ideology thing? What is an ideology for you? What do you think? And so those councilman members was answering, LGBT ideology for me is the people holding their hands in the public. It's a sin. They should never do that. I am a proud Christian and I will not allow it. So step by step, we could listen and read those newspapers, those interviews, that they are proudly Christian believers, thinking that they are fighting with a big enemy, and telling that, yes, we are proud about this declaration, we will never withdraw it. And I also see the other councilman members who are now looking on those few one who withdraw this document, telling that we will never withdraw it because we are proud of it. So it made me think that they are so proud. They are so proud about this, and they cannot even listen that they are hurting some people living in the local communities, because we don't speak about big cities. Sometimes, of course, those are big cities, but usually some of those are villages, some of those are small cities. So they should understand that there are LGBT people among them, but somehow they are not seeing this, or they don't want to see it.
Du sa ju också att de har visat dig och andra aktivister på nyheterna. Känner folk i Polen igen dig?
Yes, actually, I see. Usually, of course, we have these bubbles we are living in. I am living in my left-wing liberal bubble, so I feel quite accepted, and I think I am accepted person. But I remember once I was going through the city in Warsaw, and somebody spotted onto me and told, "Oh, you are this horrible fucking lawyer from TV," and so I understood that I cannot feel secure, because I remember that there was newspapers using my face, telling that I am a professional liar because I am paid for what I'm doing, that somebody is paying for my lies about Poland. So in Poland, it's working like you are anti-Polish because you are fighting with the government, which want to be pro-family because this is their PR. So the dots are connected quite narrow. If you are anti-Polish, so we need to fight with you. And the internet gives you this anonymously, so people are telling horrible things about me. And yes, me and few other activists are quite recognizable in Poland.
Hur orkar du fortsätta?
I'm thinking that I was asked many times what is giving me the power of continuing my fight or work. On the very beginning, it was quite hard, but it didn't happen like from the day to day. I was swimming in this all horrible things that happened to me. It was slowly increasing. So I remember 2018 when we was creating the first Pride, when they was throwing stones onto us, and I was somehow finding in myself that I need to fight back as the Stonewall in United States. And I find that I was so much stressed about what was happening that I wanted to fight back. And so I was searching for some things that I can do. So we created another Pride instead of what was happening. I was thinking, no, they will not stop us. We're gonna create another Pride and another Pride. The only thing that stopped us was the COVID. But we still think that, of course, after the COVID, we're gonna do another Pride, even bigger. So I think that I get the power from the people who are around me, who are supporting me, telling that I'm not alone. This rainbow solidarity, which is also international, because people are writing my emails. Bart, I have Polish roots. I am living in Spain. There was a guy who wrote me from Spain. I am 17 years old. How can I help my Polish community to fight back, because I have all this privilege that was fought for years in the Spain, the marriage equality and so on. How can I contribute to Poland? And this is making me feeling that my fight is worth something, because people are like writing and seeing this. So it's helping a lot, the solidarity, and I think this is the power I get it from.
Vad härligt. För jag funderade själv på det här med att Polen har ju fått ganska stor uppmärksamhet även utomlands, speciellt i Sverige. Och den här uppmärksamheten är ju inte så positiv. Hur ser du på det?
I am thinking that we are not an alone island. So when you are in a country and the government is changing and they think, oh, we cannot change everything because we have a vision of Poland that will be anti-LGBT, anti-minorities and so on. So we cannot do this without any kind of consequences. We are using European Union funds, Norwegian funds, and those funds are with some kind of values. If you are sharing them, so then it's okay. We are building some democracy in a common vision of Europe. When the country is saying, no, I am not, the government is doing, no, I'm not believing that the LGBT people should be having equal rights. So then we have a problem, because we are not sharing the same values. And the same happened right now. I'm quite sure that it's not the vision of Poland, it's a vision of the government, the right-wing government, which will change. And I'm even looking to the research that has been made. They are supported by the people, but it doesn't mean that people are so much homophobic or anti-LGBT. They are not understanding something. They don't get the proper knowledge because nobody is giving the proper knowledge to the people, but they are not so much homophobic that we could expect. So I think that this is the price we pay for our government. We as activists usually tell it that we are banned from the Norwegian funds because of the current politics of our government, not because of the LGBT activists that are horrible. No, we are just telling the truth and highlighting the problems. If the politicians want to pay a price for it, so we need to think that we need to change them, vote in a different way at another time. So yeah, I think this is the price we need to pay, and this is the only thing.
De flesta av de här HBTQ-fria zonerna finns i sydöstra delarna av Polen, stämmer det? Ja, finns det någon förklaring varför?
We was thinking a lot about this. It has to do with to deal with the Polish history, even before the Second and First War. When we see how Poland was split between the countries, I mean the Russia and Germany, so it also had a lot to do with the history of Poland, that the east part of Poland is quite conservative, and it's easier for the people to be closed for others than to the west part of Poland, which is closer to the Germany, closer to the migration of the people and so on, and to the north of Poland, which is Gdańsk, Gdynia, Szczecin, the places where Swedish people and Polish people are moving with the ferries. So I am thinking that this is the problem which was always somewhere in Poland, that we were speaking that we have a Poland A and Poland B splitted by the Vistula River, and that we need to do something about this. You cannot forget about Poland B and just the politicians who are focusing about especially those liberal one on the Poland A, because they are the voters. And so they was forgetting that they need to change the other part of Poland. And it's a grassroots work. You will not change it in the one day. And usually politicians are thinking just on the way of their 4 years cadency. And this is the problem. So I think that this has to deal with the history and politicians who are looking short term on what they can change.
Finns det någon risk att EUs påtryckningar får regeringen att bli ännu mer EU-fientlig? De säger ju ofta att EU inte ska lägga sig i Polens angelägenheter och att inte ta av Polen sin polska identitet. Kan det som bli en konflikt där, tror du, mellan EU och Polen?
Yeah, I believe it. I believe that there will be problems, but this is the diplomacy and politics. You will always have some consequences of your action. As a citizen, I am worried about this. I feel that all of the Polish people deserve to have a equal right to have the European founding or the Norwegian founding. But as concerned LGBT person, I understand that if it's the only way the Polish government can understand that the simply as it that that homophobia don't pay off, so maybe it's a good way. I understand the backslash, it's always happening in Poland, that nobody will tell us what to do. It's the official Polish government line, PR. But on the other hand, they are showing, of course, they are showing muscles, but also when we look on the facts, we don't see any more free LGBT free zones. Why they are not introducing them? Because it's simply politically not paying off. So of course they are showing the muscles, the right-wing government, but simply show in the shadow they are slowly silencing this anti-LGBT rhetoric because they know they have too much of enemies. We have the Joe Biden, which he made a very clear stand on the LGBT right and the LGBT free zones. We have Ursula von der Leyen, which also made a very clear stand and proposed the LGBT strategy. Poland can be on the collision course with maybe one enemy, but not with everybody. And even the politicians, right-wing politicians, understand it. So I think it's a good way, even if we will lose some funds, even if we will lose some, I don't know, level in the international politics. If we want to build one European Union with all of the countries and we want to survive, so European Union need to defend the LGBT rights in Poland.
Känner du att det finns någonting som andra europeiska medborgare kan göra för Polen nu? Eller för de polska medborgarna som förtrycks?
I think that there are different things to be done. Of course, demand the politicians to remember about the LGBT stuff when the politicians are visiting Poland. The high officials, I mean the prime ministers, the ministers of foreign affairs, or whoever will came to Poland or visit for some other reasons Poland, it's always necessary to remind them, there is a problem in Poland with the LGBT reasons. Whatever they will tell you, remember about this. And I know that from different resources that the different politicians are taking the subjects in the shadows with Polish politicians, and it's always making the situation that they feel this pressure. So this is the one thing. The second, of course, is maybe to ask your partner twin cities, to Polish cities, which are the LGBT-free zones, to push them, to create some programs, not just to cut the bounds, but maybe to create some programs where those homophobic politicians will think, okay, I am homophobic, but maybe it will pay me off to have such a program for the LGBT people, or the culture program where the LGBT stuff is included in our city, or to connect to this program, and we will get some funds for it. And the atmosphere in the city will be slowly changing for those reasons. And the third thing, of course, is the funding, support the LGBT NGOs. Myself, I am the self-financing all of my legal defense, all of my stuff by the Polish kind of GoFundMe page. And this is the thing that people can do. Found, make a pressure, and it's making a difference.
Du har just berättat någonting väldigt viktigt för oss. Tack för att du har delat med dig av den här historien. Och du har så mycket viktigt att berätta, och tack för att du orkar.
Jag är mycket tacksam. Jag tycker att jag får den där solidaritet från alla människor, och det gör mig starkare, och jag orkar och ha den här viktiga jobb och göra här i Polen. Jag är mycket tacksam för det här samtalet.
Många står bakom dig och det du gör.
Tack så mycket.
Tack så mycket. Mm. Tack så mycket för att du ville vara en del av Skellefteå Pride 2021.
Tack, jag tycker att det att vi har det här samtalet, det att vi pratar om Polen, det gör att inte bara jag får den här stöd, men andra som nu lyssnar på det här samtal, även de i Sverige, och tänker vad kan jag göra för att stödja Polen? Vad kan jag göra för att stödja de hbt-aktivister i Polen? Och ändra den här situationen. Och det är mycket viktigt, för att det är inte bara att prata, vi måste göra någonting för att vara den delen av ändring. I used to say in English that if you're not the part of the change, so you are the part of the problem. We cannot still be just watching of what is happening. We need to change it. We need to contribute to the change. And this is what I used to say. And yes, I get a lot of inspiration from Sweden. I know the Swedish history. I know, as I told you before, how it was developing in Sweden. And yes, those who are the privileged should always help those who are in the struggle. And I always remember this, even in my case, my living in Warsaw, contributing to the place I grew up.
Väldigt kloka ord.
Tack.
Men nu börjar tiden lida mot sitt slut, så vi ska börja avsluta. Så tack så hemskt mycket för ditt deltagande. Och så vill jag tacka alla som har lyssnat nu också. Det kom ju några frågor här, men det sista vi vill göra, det är att hälsa dig välkommen på en fysisk Pride någon gång. Att du får komma in person och hälsa på oss.
I'm wishing to this. I'm just hoping that the COVID will, that we all get vaccinated, and that we all will be. I wish that I came to Sweden again, and meet you all. You all can also contact me by my website or Facebook page or Instagram, by just simply typing my name, and I will you will find me on the Google. So if you have any more questions or whatever, I am very open to answer them, and just answer them. If you want some help, of course I can provide this. So I'm so much helpful, so much thankful for this meeting, and just hoping to meet with you.
Vi hoppas att när du får komma och besöka oss på riktigt, då har du kommit riktigt långt med din aktivism. Så då har du säkert en solskenshistoria att berätta.
Of course, I'm just thinking the same, since I'm just hoping it will happen soon, but nobody knows when the COVID will take over, or when we all will be vaccinated. It will be a lot of stories to tell.
Så tack så mycket.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day and keep health.
Hej då!
Hej!